Stay tribe. This is Insianosis with Higher Vibes Tribe and Healing Roots Life. How goes it? How are you? And most importantly, how do you feel? Right? How do you feel right now in your body where you are? How do you feel? So, before we get started into this deep dive, for the sake of recording, I wanted to say we're going to be speaking about quantum healing in this multidimensional reality in which we all reside. And this is a huge trigger warning, guys. So for anyone who tunes in at a later date or joins me, I just want to give a big trigger warning. So we will be speaking about sensitive things. So before we dive in, I'm just going to take a couple of deep breaths, and I'm standing in the middle of this field in the park down from where I live, admiring the birds. I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths, and then I'm going to dive in. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. I want to talk about quantum healing relative to polyvagal theory, the dorsal vagal nerve, and somatic experiencing, okay? Thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you, Robert, David, Pagan. Thank you for being here. So I've been working myself personally, and just a little, side note, I am a vibrational linguist. So my specialty, you could say, is trauma baselines because I am quantum healing my own complex PTSD from, decades of abuse and severe fragmentation. So it never fails. Anyone that I work with as a vibrational linguist, and I consider myself more like a Heyoka mirror empath. So as I'm working with someone one-on-one, it always brings it back to me and shows me where I need to work on myself as well. So I'm speaking in the terms of, and I've been given permission. I wanted to really speak about this, guys, and I'm going to be speaking about a client. It's sensitive matter, and she has given me permission to speak of this, but in an anonymous fashion, okay? So this is a sensitive subject, and this is relative to shame, okay, guys? Shame. So, let me see. Before I go in, when we talk about polyvagal theory, Dr. Stephen Porges and like somatic experiencing, and when we talk about trauma, I'm speaking in the sense that trauma accumulates in the body, okay? It's physiological and psychological. Okay, so anytime we have, like to quote neuroscientist, Dr. Joe Dispenza, an emotion is a byproduct of a past experience. Do you know what I'm saying? So if we have an emotion, it's because it's arisen from something we've experienced in the past, however significant or insignificant and however long ago. We could be like myself, be in our 40s and still be healing from things that we experienced in our early childhood, the first 4 years of our life. So, and I am not speaking in the term like my parents are like, my parents are awesome, so I'm speaking in the terms of having been raised in a normal family dynamic, lower middle class, like family dynamic with parents who did not experience emotion and still do not really talk about emotion. So I'm not speaking from the terms of that extreme. So I'm only saying this to give you an example that it affects everyone on various scales, okay? So when we have an emotion and we push it down and suppress it and deny it and disown it, any aspect of ourself really, like we fragment, we create this fragmentation and we push this energy down. And I say energy because emotion is literally energies in motion. They need movement. They're meant to flow. And when we push them down, suppress them, deny them, disown them, reject them, to whatever extent, they still maintain within our cellular structure within our bodies, okay? Within our bodies. So then when we're walking around, it's that's what we're magnetizing to, is that unconscional vibratory baseline, that unconscious energetic baseline. It's when we talk about the unconscious, and again, guys, I know I'm all over the place and I'm about to really bring it home with the shame because it's all connected. I'm speaking in terms of epigenetics, cellular metaphysics, quantum healing, astrotheology. Yes, astrotheology. It is connected to this, guys. It truly is. So when we're speaking in terms of, let me see, when we're speaking in terms of emotions and we're bypassing and we're suppressing and they stay in our form, and then we're going about our day and our consciousness, like Abraham Hicks law of attraction, we're like consciously, like, we're, especially those of us who resonate with being empathic, star seeds, intuitive, and like, we're here for a reason, I'm here on a mission, and we're doing all this work like affirmations and meditations, but maybe we can't quite tap into our bodies in the meditations. Like, I struggle myself too, and this week especially, and I'm going to say this month with all these retrogrades, especially Venus going in retrograde and the North Node and the South Node, transitioning into that 29th degree, that critical degree, Gemini and Sagittarius, a lot's being amplified, right? And this week, this month, the focus is on shame. And when we look at the emotion of shame, to be ashamed, right? Like myself, most of us avoid it at all cost, to where the shame becomes that dirty little secret, right? That dirty little secret. And for those of us who resonate with what it is to be an intuitive light walker, a healer on this plane, just looking out at mainstream society, like, it feels like chaos to me and it feels toxic. Do you know, like, and I'm speaking as someone who has been completely pulled out for many years, like healing agoraphobia, just because of my own trauma baselines and the toxicity of society, right? So when we talk about things like shame, we allow, I'm speaking in the terms, like, I'm going to give you some real life examples here, like with my client and then with myself, okay? And this is something that I've been working on in these workshops for my own trauma with the doctor. And if anyone is interested into that, please let me know after the fact. I'll be more than happy to invite you in. There's a free workshop tonight with Dr. Liz, and she's phenomenal. So when we're talking about shame, let me see how I can do this. All right, so I'm just going to do it, okay? So speaking as someone who struggles with, you know what, fuck it. I am just going to throw my shame out there, guys, so bear with me. Please don't judge me, and if you do, I understand that people can only perceive through their own lens of trauma. So I am throwing my shame out here right now because I'm no longer allowing it to control me, okay? So, that being said, and then you'll see how my client's resonance and how I've been able to help her, okay? When I was 13 years old, I auto-accommodated myself through dissociation into a group sex setting. Now, that threw me completely into cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance meaning at that moment, in that time, my soul, I wanted to be, I grew up in the church, I wanted to be a missionary of Christ, I wanted to be, a virgin till I was married. I did not believe in that, but I auto-accommodated because I didn't feel safe, and it was a stress response. It threw me into cognitive dissonance, and I have struggled ever since. I'm in my 40s, and I still struggle with being in my body without feeling violated, and being present in my body without automatically associating touch to violation, to giving my power away because I've allowed this to happen to me, which aligned me up vibrationally to even more detriment when I got older, like even more detriment, even more abuse, even more, I have been stabbed, cut, raped. Like, again, trigger warning, guys. I have been stripped naked in my home by someone that is supposed to love me and physically beat in naked in my most vulnerable space, right? I've been stripped down naked, physically beat, and locked in a closet. For me, it feels like I spent years in that closet, like, and I still struggle with the dissociation in the memory. Was it years? Was it months? Or was it a few days? Like, I don't know. I still struggle with that. I was pregnant, right? I was like 8 months pregnant, 9 months pregnant, and told, you know, bitch, I'm cutting this baby out of you. Like, so I like, these are things that I experienced that even though I've spent the past decade actively healing it through various cognitive behavioral therapists, through trauma therapists, through, I have been actively integrating and healing these things on a conscious level, my unconscious programming, right? But these traumas are still in my body that I'm now working on because I still struggle with being triggered. And when I'm triggered, it's automatically, it doesn't matter what the circumstance, it doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter who triggers me, it doesn't matter what it is. My instantaneous reaction is I am not safe, I'm violated, I leave my body. Which I'm grateful for today because the contrast, it's why I'm so good at what I do, that I can help people and I understand on these various levels because of all the varying degrees of trauma I've experienced and have been healing from. Okay. So because I have this within me and I've been dealing with this within me, I manifested, through resonance. People find me through resonance. I don't really do a lot of advertising. I work with clients. If it's a coaching client, I tend to only take 2 to 3 of those max a month, because I do spend a lot of time healing myself and researching and studying and stuff. So I have one of my clients that I've been working with this past month who found me through resonance. And again, this is trigger warning, guys, and she's given me permission to talk about this. So please bear with me. And I really want to paint this picture because it's magnetics. We align through the magnetics, not from us thinking, I'm abundant, I'm safe, I'm healthy, I'm abundant. I mean, that helps, but it's our magnetics. It's our baseline. What we magnetize to and align to us vibrationally is the baseline in our body. And it's that unconscious emotional baseline that exists within our body that also is directly connected to our soul and our bioluminescence relative to how we are and what we process and what we evolve to and, after this physical life. Okay. So this goes with us. That's why it's so important to heal these things in our physical form. Now, I just broke out I'm having a somatic reaction, guys. Let me take my jacket off. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. My whole body just broke out in a sweat and I'm feeling really nauseous and I'm dripping wet right now. I'm sitting outside at this park, but I want to talk about this, okay? I'm not having an emotional reaction. My body's having a somatic reaction. So let me put my hair up, take my jacket off. Okay, so my client that I've been working with this month, okay. The client I've been working with this month she was gang raped at 16. And as a byproduct of being gang raped, she has lived with herpes. Okay, guys? And because of this, it's a trauma. Okay? Now, she was in a 10-year marriage where she settled, right? She settled only because no one else would want her because of what happened to her at 16. This past year, she became conscious and left that marriage, but still struggles, wanting to find unconditional love, wanting to find, someone to love and accept her, but still hiding this dirty little secret of what happened to her at 16 and thinking that that's what defined her and nobody would want her because of this situation, the HPV, right? So this week we've been working on processing shame, instead of allowing the shame to kind of rule and make the choices for us. Do you know what I'm saying? instead of like hiding behind this dirty little secret, right? But taking over and being like, letting it empower us, you know? I'm not a victim to my circumstance, that type of looking at it this way. So we've been doing these exercises, and this is what's been coming up. Okay, so learning to sit through and breathe with and acknowledge it versus associating to it, right? And so I'm going to give you a real life example of this. So she recently got onto some dating sites and stuff and was real excited. And the problem is like hiding this dirty little secret while like presenting everything else about yourself, but hiding this dirty little secret. So taking weeks to get to know someone, and then when you finally open yourself up and you share this most vulnerable aspect of yourself with them, being rejected, right? Or like just ghosted, or it triggers more of the somatic, experience, feelings in your body of abandonment, right? Of abandonment, because, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend all these weeks to get to know you, and be hopeful. And this person is only looking for unconditional love, unconditional love. And that's it. Unconditional love and acceptance. You know what I'm saying? So let me get out of here. Hold on a second. Now, since we've been working on this, just like how can I say it? Restructuring it, versus like, oh, it's some dirty little secret, restructuring it and creating this empowerment around it, okay? Owning what happened to me without becoming it, Me personally, like, because of what happened to me at 13. It's the stories we tell ourselves and the meanings that we assign to the stories we tell ourselves. When we give ourselves full permission to rewrite those stories. And like, for me, the story that I had been telling myself through my shame, I anytime my shame is triggered, I'm back in that closet. Anytime. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it happened, 17 years ago. That doesn't matter. So anytime my shame is triggered, for me, my body is instantly back in that closet, locked, about to get my son cut out of me. Okay, that's where, and when we think in terms of like neuroplasticity, neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza, when we're talking in terms of like neuroplasticity, if the mind thinks it often enough, and we have enough, firing and wiring and rewiring, and if our mind becomes the body, then it doesn't matter if I spent years in that closet or months in that closet or only, days in that closet. My body has been there for years. Does this make sense? So, in same with this client. So, she had been rejecting herself because nobody would love me, nobody would want me, because I was raped, because she was punishing herself for putting herself in the position for it to happen. She was punishing herself just like I had been, right? And then so when we were rewriting her shame, working with her to help her rewrite her story and to take over, it's also working through the trapped emotions and densities within our body associated to that shame. When shame is triggered, we're afraid, oh my God, they're going to judge me, they're not going to love me, they're not going to want me. Who would want me? I'm going to settle. This person's giving me attention, whether it's healthy or not is irrelevant. They're giving me attention. That's all I'm worthy of, and I just want to be loved. You know what I'm saying? So it's rewriting that code. So this week we've been working with that shame to the extent, for the first time, a day after rewriting this code, a day after, she instead of deleting this dating app, she's like, okay, I'm not going to spend weeks or months getting to know someone before hiding this aspect of myself, before I put it out there only to be rejected. She's like, you know what? Fuck it, right? I am not going to be afraid or ashamed any longer, So I've been working with her, teaching her relational psychology, okay? Like certain questions you can ask, you know, the 3-question game. You can look up relational psychology 3-question game. Till Swan is a great video example of it. And just learning that, to be able to ask one question, find out the response. You don't have to auto accommodate to that, you know, and it's your choice. And so after rewriting her code, after this last session with her, you know, a couple of days ago, the very next day, she readjusted, you know, her vibratory baseline relative to the shame. And she had met someone off of a dating app, like on a text, and instantaneously is like, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I've struggled with, da da da. Like after they passed that one question of like, okay, maybe there's some resonance there, maybe, okay, maybe we'll go further. But before even spending days getting to know someone, or weeks or whatever, she's just like, you know what, okay, this is it. Bomb, 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 bomb. And that person was like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what I've been through. How could I judge you for that? You're amazing. I want to get to know you. Which completely blew her away, because all these years, since she was 16 years old, now she's in her mid-30s, since she was 16 years old, she had been telling herself the story that nobody would want her. Nobody would accept her, that she was unlovable, that she was unworthy because of something that happened to her that she had no control over, right? When she was a child, a minor child. Again, and it's the stories we tell ourselves and the meanings that we assign to these stories. Having her rewrite, and now it's been several days, and she's a completely different, her baseline has shifted. She's feeling more empowered, you know, she's more confident, she's loving herself more, you know, she's feeling safer in her body, you know, she's feeling more like a better mom. She said it's even reverberating into the dynamic with her toddler, you know, just like she feels better as a human being in her body, because that shame is no longer controlling, dominating, running her life. The fear of being found out, the shame. Does that make sense? Feeling guilty for being afraid of feeling ashamed. It's all connected, guys, and it keeps our unconscious, vibratory, emotional baseline in densities that exist below the heart chakra. You know, like grief blocks the heart. And we can truly grieve the loss of unconditional self-love, especially if we don't know what unconditional self-love is, have never experienced it, can't even conceptualize it, then our heart can very well be grieving that, and we not even know. You know, we could be dealing with a heart wall issue, you know, and if we are not open to receive love from anyone else, you know, if we're not open to receive love from ourselves, right? Like here's just an example. Speaking it from the consciousness of having been someone who was cheated on and abused, right? And I was like, I was so, yeah, I had Stockholm syndrome, but I've worked through that in therapy. But speaking as the consciousness of someone who has been cheated on, you know, when someone cheats on you, it's a feeling of betrayal, right? It's a feeling of being violated through betrayal because your trust is broken. And the first thing from my experience, maybe you're different, maybe you don't resonate because you've never been cheated on, but from my experience, the first thing that I like almost instantaneously do is I shut my body down. Right? Like, okay, so even if I feel betrayed, like, I mean, these days, my husband is absolutely amazing. I'm married, I've been with my husband now for 11 years, and he's trans, androgynous, LGBTQ, like fucking off the hook amazing. But before, you know, I've spent years in hell, right? And so when you feel betrayed, and even though my husband's amazing, he would never cheat on me, I have trauma trapped in my body relative to self-betrayal. So anytime I feel like, oh God, I'm not trusting what you're saying, or I'm feeling betrayed because I feel self-betrayal, even though I'm projecting it onto you, what do? We shut our bodies down. Like, no, you're not going to see me undress. No, don't look at me. No, don't come into the bathroom with me. Like, no, like, no. We start to shut the door, be more private with ourselves, with our body. We close ourselves off, regardless if they cheated on us or not. Even if there have been many a times I've closed myself off over the past 11 years to my husband, just simply because of the trauma being triggered within me, which created a feeling, and that feeling was like rejection and betrayal and abandonment, but it was self-abandonment, self-betrayal, self-rejection. And so even though I was feeling that in my body, the sensations in my body, and my go-to is to auto-accommodate, fawn, or dissociate, and I can totally freeze, be in dissociation while fawning. That's what happened that's how I got to where, at 13, I froze. Oh my God, I'm not safe. Oh no, I was with someone from the church that was older from me who I trusted. This wasn't supposed to happen. I am not supposed to be here. So I froze, and then I fawned while freezing. I auto-accommodated. Oh, you want this from my body? Okay, this is what it's going to take for me to get home safe? Oh my God, then don't tell. And it became a dirty little secret that lined me up to so much more, so much more. By 14, I'd already killed myself and woke up. My parents never knew. Like, I had took a whole bottle of Tylenol at 14 years old and woke up foaming at the mouth, the very next day, got dressed and went to school. No one knew until I was in my 30s in therapy, So it's these little hidden little secrets, these shames, and which aligned me up to an adult at 15. He was an adult, I was a minor, but I ended up marrying the guy because I didn't feel safe at home. But what it was, I didn't feel safe in my body because I wasn't safe even being. Home is where the heart is. Well, if you're not safe in your home, which is your heart, which is in your body, right? Which lined me up to even more abuse. Divorced by 16, met my kid's father by 17, and spent the next seven and a half years, in a very narcissistic dance, and it takes two to tango. And that's what I'm saying. As a codependent empath, I danced that narcissistic part too. I became it through my own patterning, So now in my 40s, I'm dealing with the trauma that I've created in my children through my not knowing, through my dissociation, through my fawning, through my trauma, through my fragmentations, through my triggered wounds, right? So epigenetics, right? But I'm seeing as I'm healing my emotional wounds and my traumas, it's slowly reverberating not only into my children, but also back into my parents as well. So we're all in this together and everything is connected. Okay, guys? But that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. I'm walking at the moment, so I don't have like any of my resources and books, but to throw off some names, like you could look up Dr. Stephen Porges, Dr. Pete Walker from Surviving to Thriving, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Dr. Pete Walker. Another great resource on Polyvagal is polyvagal information and somatic experiencing, like releasing it from the body, is the Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. You can get the free app on Android. I don't know if it's on iPhone. I have an Android, but you can look it up, the Emotion Code, Dr. Bradley Nelson, and it's a free app. And in that app, it teaches you how to release emotion and to target it. And it has the first 2 chapters of the book in that free app. Or you could buy the book. I did both, Like, there's so much research and resources out there. I will come back after this live when I get home and stock in this information of some videos. I'll come back in and put it in the comments in here for anyone who, resonates with this or gets what I'm saying. you know, or struggling with shame or guilt or fear, you know, especially with what's going on in the world right now, right? Like, I'm not even going to talk about energies above fourth generation, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot going on in the world right now that's triggering a lot of these densities within our physical forms. And as a collective, like human consciousness as a collective, the unconscious baseline is definitely being triggered, okay? And it's being triggered through that fear response, through that stress response. And when we are in stress response, it's the polyvagal, it's the dorsal vagal nerve that's being messed with, right? It's being clicked on, you know? And when we are in an auto-accommodating stress response through fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, our adrenals are on. And when our adrenals are kicked on, you know, for any amount of a period of, you know, they're only meant to kick on to run from that saber-toothed tiger and then kick off, and then, you know, the gazelle goes back to grazing, right? But as humans, we can get our stress response kicked on by trauma, something that happened to us as a kid or as an adult even, like however significant or insignificant, you know, everyone experiences trauma to varying degrees. So when I'm saying trauma, I'm saying had an experience which gave rise to an emotion that you had no way to self-soothe in that moment at that time that trauma incurred. When I was experiencing what happened to me at 13, I had no way to even articulate what was happening, let alone understand that I had a choice, that I had free will, that my feelings and thoughts mattered. Like, so it's in that moment, at that time, you know, like one person can be in a car wreck and walk away like, hey, shake it off. Ain't nothing gonna get me. And another person could be in that exact same car wreck and it kind of, you know, fuck them up a little bit, you know, excuse my French, because of their own trauma already, their own internalization already, you know. It's the toxic inner critic. It's the stories we tell ourselves, the meanings that we apply to the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, do you know? And we can completely rewrite that code. Completely, okay? Completely, you know, like, here's another example this week. Like, there's something, I've been wanting to do ASMR, you know, for a long time. And if you're not familiar with what that is, look it up because it's freaking awesome. I'll come back and include a quantum ASMR video here. But as someone who has complex PTSD and that struggles being in my body physically, like my default is out of my body, I have to do like walking meditations, moving meditations, yoga, tai chi, qigong, singing, sound bowls, dancing, anything that's movement, because to be still with my eyes closed in my body, that instantaneously triggers a somatic response to me of violation. I feel violated in my body, I feel ashamed, and I feel like I'm back in that closet. That's what that does to me. So I struggle with ASMR. But this week, through working with Dr. Liz in those workshops, the trauma specialist I'm collaborating with, and guys, Mondays are for healing. So if you resonate with what I'm saying and you would like to join into a free workshop that specializes in trauma recovery, and she has a PhD in social conflict resolution. Personally, my humble opinion, she has helped me so much with my internal conflict resolution just through teaching me certain techniques on how to create space in my brain, okay, and start to feel safe. So in doing so, in going to these workshops and learning these techniques, I decided to give ASMR another try a couple of days ago, okay? So I knew I was safe. It was at night. My husband was beside me. You know, he was awake. So like consciously, I knew I was safe. I was in my home, in my bed. So I put in this quantum ASMR video on the YouTube channel and in my phone, and put my headphones in and closed my eyes, laid down. And as soon as she started talking, Oh my God, as soon as she's freaking-taneously, no joke, like no joke, instantly I started feeling unsafe. My eyes were closed, the headphones were on, my husband was beside me, I knew I was safe, but what it was doing was triggering the shame. My body instantly flinches and twitches. Like, I struggle with this. I flinch and twitch when I'm triggered and it's unconscious. And when that happens, it brings up shame and I feel ashamed for flinching and twitching because I'm not aware that it happens. And it's almost like someone with physical Tourette's. I'm not joking, okay? And I'm so again, I've been healing agoraphobia because of my complex PTSD, and I don't want to be triggered, right? So, in someone's neutral face, I go to a grocery store or a walk and meet a stranger, right? And someone's neutral face can trigger this reaction within my body. It triggers the polyvagal, the somatics, okay? That being said, I put these headphones in, I lay down, and instantly I start twitching and flinching. But instead of resisting it, because I was feeling violated, I felt ashamed, I was back in that fucking closet, you know? But instead of resisting it, I started doing what Dr. Liz had been teaching us. And I started breathing through it and creating this space between my, the story I was telling myself that I'm violated, oh my God, I'm not safe, I'm back in the closet, oh my God, like I am safe, I am here now, I am sovereign, at the same time as I was breathing through these flinchings. And instead of wanting to pull the headphones out and pull my eye thing off, you know, and just get the fuck out of there, you know, I was just breathing through it and breathing through it. And it was a 30-minute video, and it was more intense in the beginning than it was towards the end. And the more that I was able to just breathe through it, it was kind of lessening and lessening and lessening. And by the end of it, instead of feeling hyper-adrenalized like I typically would during a triggered somatic response, right? A triggered somatic reaction. Instead, I was feeling heavy in my body and relaxed and tired. And again, I'm someone who struggles feeling safe in my body when my eyes are closed. So I don't sleep well. I'm up and down all night using the bathroom. I'm up and down. I'm, you know, like every hour on the hour. Like, it's an unconscious somatic response from the accumulative trauma in my body. Being someone that has been severely abused. Like, I've got cigarette burn marks all over my body where I've had things put out on me as a byproduct of me not cleaning the house right or being fast enough or my clumsiness. I have stab wounds, you know, like I'm only telling you these things so that you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Like, it's been accumulative. And again, because of the chronic stress, the chronic being like in that stress, adrenal, you know, I've been healing concurrently with these, you know, mental, emotional issues. I've manifested all kinds of physical ailments, you know, like, and if you look up and I'm going to talk more about it, and I will put so much information in here, guys, like actual webinars from holistic psychologists and stuff like that I have in store. And I've got that my Tribe Unbroken with the doctor, Tribe Unbroken, a circle for trauma warriors. It is full of these types of resources and information. And if you want to join, it's free to anyone. And those workshops are on Monday, and they are free. She's phenomenal. She's a channel, and I'm the administrator too in that group. And I'm putting all the science, you know, it's like where psychology meets metaphysics meets neuroscience. That's what the Tribe Unbroken is for people who's experienced various degrees of trauma, both male and female. And this is a safe space for us to explore, okay, and talk about these things. So I do have a lot of personal things, you know, things that I've, like that ASMR story I just told you. I'd written a little thing and included the video in that group. But if you're interested in joining me, either, you know, in that group or or whatever, you know, like my mission in this world is to heal myself, integrate it into my soul, that healing, right? And share what I know with as many people as I can, because we are all innately sovereign, even though perhaps we're not aware of our sovereignty. I know I wasn't. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and let me just tell you, dude, first, oh my God, I've spent 10 years in and out of therapy. 10 years in and out of therapy, right? And I'm someone who, even with my medical copay, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on therapy. And nothing has leveled me up as much as being in that workshop with Dr. Liz for the past 2 weeks. Holy cow. And I'm so grateful for that, because I'm able to bring that wisdom to the forefront to help my clients, the people that I'm already working with, you know, because, dude, it's our magnetics, you know, and shame can affect our magnetics. Guilt will affect our magnetics. Fear will affect our magnetics. Hey, honey. So if you resonate, by all means, hit me up, you know. And if you're interested in doing some one-on-one techniques, I'm looking for a couple of people to go into some heart coherence with, guys. So if you are, or whatever, I'm trying to get a little more experience under my belt, hit me up. I'm looking for a couple of people to do a 15-minute free session with, and we can go into like heart coherence and create some space together. Okay, guys? Yeah, Sandy, hit me up. See, I'm going to go back through. I've been walking, so I'm going to go through and look at your, I just got back to my home, too. I'm going to look through the comments. Okay, David. Hey, thank you for being here, Pagan. David, I love you guys so much. David says, my life is a trigger warning. Oh, gosh, I so resonate, right? Astrotheology sounds like something I could get down with. The astrotheology is the a cellular metaphysics relative to like our natal charts, and understanding our innate cellular deficiencies goes a long way with helping us live a happy, healthy, you know, coherent life, you could say, because if we're having deficiencies, which we all do, depending upon our natal chart, then it can affect the way we think and how we feel and our consciousness and our ability to even have clarity around those things. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's really good to know your capstone. You know what I mean? All right, let's see here. David, as long as it's not Mercury. Till later. Well, Venus, it's Venus, Saturn, and I can't remember the other one. Oh, but my brain is so full of information. I haven't looked at the astrals today. So we'll see here. Vanessa, feels so bad. Oh, honey, you're aware of your bad feeling. You know what I mean? Like, how can we move it, right? How do you want to move it? How can you move forward? How do you breathe through it, right? Like, that's so key. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I feel bad now. Now what? How can I move this? Do I want to stay this way? Or do I want to, how can I move this? Why? Like, let's define, what does bad feel? What, for me, bad feels like violating. For me, shame triggers that violation feeling, and then I feel guilty for allowing all that I allowed, which, I mean, it's so like one feeding off the other, it's like a domino spiral. And the more that we can kind of process the densities in our body that feeling, and move that feeling, you know, albeit through like laughing, crying, like moving it up the grief scale. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to jump from denial to elation, or to, do you know, that's why awareness is key. Like, okay, I'm aware that I'm feeling bad right now in my body. What does bad feel like? What does bad feel like for me? You know, how would I like to feel? What would feel better? What can I do in this moment right now with what I have from where I am that would help me align to something better feeling? Do you know what I mean? Without jumping straight to like, I don't want to bypass this bad feeling. No, let's explore it. Why do I feel bad? What feels bad? You know what I mean? Could it be like I'm grieving, or I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Kind of look on the emotion scale too. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Google Images and type in emotion scale and ride that wave. Try to process it up. Do you know, it has to move through that. That's why if you're angry, go punch a pillow, go scream, go throw some rocks, move it. You know, if you're sad, let's cry. You know, like, let's move it. Like, shoot, sometimes I'll be like, my body triggers tears easily because it's the trauma trapped in my body rising. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, crying can be so cathartic. And these are just some examples, like some other good things, like anything that you can do to get back into your body if you have a trauma baseline, you know, like I do walking meditations, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, like there's no wrong answer, swimming, running. I mean, just like whatever works for you, do that. And sometimes it's like literal trial and error. That's what it's been for me. I've literally, experimenting with just everything. I'll find it, jump into it, dive into it, absorb it, and take what resonates and take what works for me and leave the rest behind. None, if it doesn't benefit me, if it doesn't align me to like more unconditional self-love or unconditional self-acceptance or well-being or health and happiness, like then I don't have time or energy or focus for it. Like I'm here to learn, to grow, to sometimes wobble, and I'm here for love. I am not here for war. You know, I'm here for love. All right, David. I know I'm a recovering alcoholic. My dad is on the booze now, and I visited earlier. When I visit, I feel old emotions. It's tough. That's the polyvagal being triggered, and I understand. I'm learning how to create this space between like I'm feeling this and it feels this, you know, versus creating the space to be like, okay, I'm a soul my body's being triggered this, and this is the emotion that's rising, and I'm witnessing this emotion that's rising versus associating myself to that, my emotion. That's what's working for me, especially when I'm triggered somatically. Like just learning, like for me, understanding that has gone a long way with me being able to like go to the grocery store, still feel triggered, still be somatically triggered. By the time I walk out of the grocery store 15 minutes later, you know, my whole body's soaking wet because I'm having a somatic reaction. My heart's palpitating and I'm shallow breathing and I get a little nauseous and a little dizzy, but learning to breathe through it and be like, this is just my body reacting. This doesn't mean that I'm losing my shit and having a nervous breakdown. This is just my body reacting. I am safe. I am well. My husband is with me. You know, like for me, just rewiring that helps me so much. You know what I mean? Brave lady, thank you, honey. I'm so honored to have you in our group and to have you, David, as a contributing member of Higher Vibes Tribe. We love you, honey. Thank you, Vanessa, for tuning in, love, and Marisol. Yeah, electromagnetism, that's it. All is a tune. We are electromagnetic beings. Think about the ECG, right? Or the EKG or the MEG, right? Magnetoencephalogram. Look that up. You know, we are electromagnetic beings, right? All right, let's see here. Marisol, oh, wonderful. I'm glad this is helping you, honey, because it is a sensitive subject. You know, there's a lot of trigger warnings here and, you know, it doesn't feel good to feel guilty or ashamed or unloved or anxious or, you know, bitter or resentful or angry. Like none of these things feel good, but bypassing them doesn't help either because then we just push it down for it to arise at another date, you know, and when we push it down and suppress it and disown it and reject it and deny it, it festers. Do you know what I mean when I say festers? Like it grows, it amplifies, it accumulates. That's a good word. It accumulates, you know? All right, Esmeralda, thank you. I'm an overcomer. Heck yeah, honey, you're a thriver. I am not a survivor. I am not a victim. I'm a thriver, you know? I am an alchemist. I transmute. Right? I do transmutation. I am an alchemist, you know. I am a thriver. I am here for love. Love above will is my law, right? Love above will is my law. And unconditional love is inclusive of self. And I can unconditionally love myself and unconditionally love you, but I don't have to, and I'm speaking in the terms of, if someone's in my reality, a toxic parent or a toxic sibling or a toxic friend or whatever, you can love them unconditionally while still having boundaries in place. You know, no is a full sentence. Do you know what I mean? Like, without creating that space goes a long way in that instantaneous, like, I want to say yes because I don't want to upset you, because if you're upset, then I'm going to have to deal with this down the road. Do you know what I'm saying? So, sovereignty, not allowing the shame to rule us. Sovereignty. Do you know what I mean? All right, Karen Wheeler. I really need more of these types of conversations. Me too, honey. Thank you for being here. I've lived so long on the edge due to childhood and adult trauma, but I'm broken. It feels like no one cares unless you have the insurance to pay. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you for putting this out there and giving some resources to help. Oh, you are so welcome, honey. The only reason that I know what I know is because I've spent the past decade actively healing my traumas, actively healing it, like searching, researching, going to school for psychology because I wanted to figure out why the hell I was so freaking fragmented, you know, like actively like reading and watching and buying books and like diving into resources and watching lectures and going to various different therapists. You know, I've gotten to where I'm really good at triggering anomaly. So like my last therapist that I had, like other than working with Dr. Liz, like the last therapist I had last year, I chose him for like only a 6-month time frame because I struggled with masculine energy. Like my husband, you know, is trans androgynous, right? But and I have sons, but I struggle with feeling safe around masculine energy. So I consciously chose a man psychologist. Now, and, you know, in hindsight, I feel like I taught him more than he taught me, but what he did do was provide me a safe space to work through my traumas and to talk it out while triggering me somatically. Every time, like the day before the appointment, the day of, and the day after, I had complete body somatic issues, but just sitting in his presence was triggering for me. You know, after the first few meetings with him, I noticed more male clients gravitating to me. And now, you know, I've honestly worked with just as many men as I have women. But it's only because I consciously chose to trigger anomaly and work with it and move through it and breathe through it. And that was before I even had the language to understand what I was doing in that dynamic per se. Like I chose him knowing I would trigger that, but I didn't realize what I was doing was creating space in that space, you know? So Karen, if you're interested in joining me, honey, or anyone else who would like to join into that, the Tribe Unbroken with the doctor, you know, currently she's doing free Monday workshops. They are not recorded. They are private calls, like in a group setting right now. They're for women only, but I do feel like that will be growing as the tribe grows. Yeah, so if you'd like to, whether, you know, this Monday or next Monday or whatever, you know, if you would like to join the group just to get all the resources and information and personal stories, you know, from people that get it because they've experienced it too, by all means, hit me up. I'll put a link in this as well in the comments with all the resources I'm going to come back in and plug in to this live audio. So definitely come back and check that out, okay, guys? Yeah. Oh, I feel like I've been on here long enough now. My whole body is dripping wet. I'm about to go make a smoothie. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Thank you for holding this safe space for me to share my shame. I'll be doing that more in the coming days. I do feel like I'm going to do a video, like a live audio on specifically on shame as I learn to take my power back and hopefully help anyone else who struggles with this as well, because shame doesn't have to define us, you know? We don't have to be ashamed because we've experienced shame, you know? And there is no shame in truth, guys. There is no shame in truth, okay? No shame in truth. So I will to will the will of God. I will to will the will of Source. I will to will the will of love, right? I am here for love. I am not here for war. I am here for restoration, right? And together we rise, guys, one unconditionally self-loving awareness at a time. So, namaste. Thank you for tuning in. I love you. Live love, be the light.